Evening, everyone. I call this meeting into session, and if you could please join me. Oh, wait. I just want to see if you do it. Please join me for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. Sorry, I had to. All right. Could we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Amon?
Here.
Commissioner Calkins?
Here.
Commissioner Christensen?
Here.
Commissioner Doris?
Here.
Commissioner Halley?
Here.
Vice Chair Nichols?
Here.
Chair Kine?
Here. All right. At this time, I will see if there's any public comment. Please remember, if anybody would like to speak, they are welcome to, but this public comment time is for anything that is not on the agenda. I will start with anybody who might be online.
There is no one online.
All right. If there's anybody in the gallery who would like to speak, please come forward. Seeing none, I will close public comment. Moving on to item number 3, the consent calendar. I'm sorry, the consent calendar. Reviewing the Planning Commission minutes for October 14th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve Planning Commission meeting minutes from October 14th, 2025.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote. Or I'm sorry,
All
all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, I'll move forward. I'm sorry, I'm so used to the Board of Supervisors today. They have a different order of things. Item number 4 for the Planning Commission business. Item A, recommendation that the City Council adopt amendments to the zoning regulations Title 17 of the Fortuna Municipal Code and zoning maps. And I will turn it over to staff. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Planning Commission. Get myself sorted here. I have a presentation to go over of this agenda item. I will note before we get started, it was brought to our attention that attachment 2 of the staff report, which was intended to be the red line proposed zoning amendments to the zoning regulations. It's actually the clean version that's in the packet, but the red line version showing the changes has been posted to the city's website since the beginning of October. I look up the precise date, but the time the noticing was released to the newspaper and the property owners. So that is, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, but I'm going to go ahead and hopefully I'm going to be sharing my screen. I think I'm doing that now, so, but I can't quite tell from beginning. So, looks that way.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. So this agenda item is for proposed amendments to the city's zoning regulations, the text of the zoning regulations, that's Title 17, and also to the zoning map. And the purpose of these amendments, or why these are being undertaken, is because state law requires a city zoning ordinance and other land use regulations to be consistent with the general plan. And at this point in time, there's provisions in the zoning regulations and in the zoning map that don't reflect changes that were adopted as part of the Mill District specific plan, and also changes that were adopted as part of the housing element, the 6th cycle housing element. So, and then, so the purpose of these, one of them is to sync up those land use regulations, the zoning regulation, to match up with those and be consistent with those policies and implement specific programs. And then more specifically for the housing element programs, they need completing implementation of those programs is needed to maintain compliance with state housing law. So What so far has happened is earlier this month, the city published a public hearing notice in the North Coast Journal, which is a newspaper of general circulation, and also all the property owners that had a zoning change were also noticed, and they received a 20-day notice inconsistent with state law. So here we are this evening, following the presentation, the Planning Commission will hold a public hearing, and so the public will have an opportunity to provide comment on the proposed amendments, and then following that public hearing, the Planning Commission may recommend that the City Council approve or modify or reject the amendment based on the required findings. Staff recommendation is that they be advanced to the City Council. And then so on, there'll be another noticing period to property owners and to the community, and public hearings as shown in the chart here. So summary of the zoning amendments. So the text amendments, they will allow supportive housing, transitional housing, and community care facilities for individuals, 6 or fewer individuals by right, which is consistent with state law. It'll allow what are called supportive housing developments consistent with state law, and I'll go over with a little bit more what a supportive housing development is, and then add and update definitions such as family, supportive housing, target population, and transitional housing to be consistent with state law. And these text changes would implement programs in the city's housing element. And then their zoning map amendments as well, we'll go over those. And what they will do is update 2 existing qualified combining zones. One was adopted in 1988, and one of them was adopted in 2002. The one that was adopted in 1998, some of the parcels that are under this current qualified combining zone, Q zone, are in the Mill District specific plan, and then there's a few parcels that are also under that same ordinance that are actually designated housing element sites, and then the Q16, it's 3 parcels, and they're housing element sites. And also as part of the text amendments, it proposes to remove the language of 1 second residential dwelling unit per lot, subject to Fortuna Municipal Code 1706-183. And that section that was repealed in 2021, so there's not even anything to look up there. It's really accessory dwelling units, so those are now governed by ADU regulations, and the city has adopted regulations and also state ADU law. So this is just kind of a cleanup, and that affects the residential states, the R1 and RM. So that's kind of a pretty minor one. And then some other text changes are updates to specify that transitional housing, supportive housing, and community care facilities for 6 or fewer individuals are residential uses that are permitted in the same manner as other residential dwellings of the same type in the same zone. And this would be in all zones, all the residential zones, or zones that allow residential uses except for AE, is in the text amendments. And this is actually already state law, that supportive housing, community care facilities for 6 or fewer and transitional housing be treated the same as other residential uses. So a single family dwelling could potentially be used for one of these uses, and it couldn't be treated differently than the traditional use of a single family dwelling. They have to be treated the same way, is basically what it says. So this is really already part of state law, and so it's just bringing the city's regulations current and to reflect state law. And so supportive housing developments, getting ahead of myself. So these are highly qualified types of housing with a lot of regulations about where, with state law essentially dictating to jurisdictions the zones where they need to allow them, and then the what is a supportive housing development, what is qualifies. There's very little discretion for cities to make any changes to these regulations. And it's one of those state mandates that they painted a very broad brush, and these apply everywhere in the state of California, regardless of the size of jurisdiction or the likelihood of this type of development coming to a community. They have to be permitted where the qualifications are met. And so that, as part of that, they're to be permitted in all zones that allow multifamily or mixed uses, including non-residential zones that permit multifamily uses. HCD is their guidance. Guidance is that, even if multifamily is conditionally permitted in a zone, and not principally permitted, they're to be permitted. The supportive housing developments are to be permitted in those zones. So for Fortuna, this ends up being the residential multifamily zone, all the commercial and industrial zones, and the public facility zones. So that's the where. And then the what part, what the qualifications are. So this would be, the project would have to come in and meet all these qualifications, and this is kind of the short list. 100% of the units are set aside for lower income households, and they're subject to a 55-year affordability covenant. They meet state standards for the minimum number of units that will be permanent supportive housing units for the target population. It's people with disabilities, by income, and some other special population, but for these specifically, there also needs to, part of the target population is that the tenants would have experienced homelessness. So that's one of the provisions of this. And that's also part of, because of the funding that's associated, like to keep, for operations, there's not going to be a lot of them coming into communities because there's a lot of the affordability requirements and whatnot are pretty, and keeping them operating is it's not just a market rate developer is going to come in and do this, with these terms. And then they have to have a dedicated on-site area for supportive housing services. All units must include a bathroom and a kitchen or cooking facilities. So the facility that the Humboldt Senior Resource Center is very close, but I think the target population component, at least we didn't, about some of the clients have experienced homelessness. I don't think they met that. Maybe they did, but we didn't get into that. But that's how rigorous the requirements are. They were close, but I don't think they met quite that level. But anyways, this is one of the changes that's in the proposed zoning regulation amendments. So I'm going to pause because I think my next slide is maybe onto the map amendments and see if there's any questions. That's kind of might be a lot to.
I'll probably have a question for you in a little bit.
I have a question. So on the AE zoning.
Could you please speak into the microphone? Thank you.
On the AE zoning, aren't multiple units available in that zoning too with the state?
So you could do a single-family dwelling, accessory dwelling unit, which you think you can get up to 2 accessory dwelling units. I don't know if the duplex laws would necessarily apply, but so you could do an accessory dwelling units and consistent with state law, though, in the AE.
And then single family, where you're doing the overlay, single family can continue to remain, and if a single family home burns down, will you be able to rebuild that single family home?
Yes, we're going to get to that, but yes.
Okay, sorry.
Yes, yeah. So here we are on the zoning map amendments. So like I was saying, there's two qualified combining zones that they're proposed to be amended. So the one that was adopted in 1988, the Q2, this is the one that applies to a large residential area that is established residential area that's adjacent to the Mill District specific plan area, and also to some properties that are north and east of Safeway on, I think it's Redway. And it also applies to, in which the latter group are housing element sites. And I have maps, so we're not just going to be looking at text here. But multifamily development under this Q2 requires a use permit. Single-family residential development is principally permitted, but multifamily requires a use permit. And the Q6, which is 3 small parcels that are housing element sites, it prohibits multifamily development. So I think we now have some, okay, not quite maps. So the proposed Q zone that will apply to all these 3 geographic areas, it's the same Q zone. It will replace those existing Q zones for these affected parcels. The area A, B, and C is shown in the staff report, and we have some maps to go over in a minute. So single-family residential development, including accessory dwelling units, will continue to be principally permitted by right under the proposed Q zone. Because the current RM, the city's RM zone, single-family residential development requires a use permit. And we'll get into a little bit more. Commissioner Christensen already kind of got to why it is important. By right, multifamily development in which at least 20% of the units are affordable to lower income households will be permitted by right. And this relates to a requirement of state housing law for housing elements. And this is to incentivize the construction of multifamily development on those lots. Doesn't compel a property owner developer to do affordable, but it is intended to incentivize. By right support of housing developments, because multifamily is principally permitted in accordance with state law, by right support of housing developments would be a use. Other uses would be the transitional supportive housing, community care facilities like the other zones, SB9 duplexes, urban lot splits, and the existing accessory uses of the RM zone. Those will remain the same. As far as conditional uses, multifamily developments where less than 20% of the units are not affordable, so 100% market rate development would be permitted with a use permit. And then other conditionally permitted uses under this proposed Q zone would be these other residential uses that are already enumerated in the RM zone, but we wanted to carry them forward to this Q zone, were rest homes, community care facilities for 7 or more, mobile home parks, subject to the provisions in the Fortuna Municipal Code. So this slide kind of encapsulates what the proposed Q zone, what the uses that would be principally permitted and conditionally permitted is the proposal. So now finally getting to some maps. So this is area A. This is the area that is by the Mill District. And so this is all currently under the 1988 Q zone, where single-family residential development is principally permitted, but multifamily requires a conditional use permit. And so this would change to that Q zone that we were just looking at. There's this additional area that is, as part of the Mill District specific plan, is currently commercial thoroughfare. The 2 parcels on the north side are developed with single-family residences. The 2 southerly parcels in this area, they are, one is vacant, the one that is on the west side, I can't get my cursor moved, but is vacant, and the other one, I think there's some improvements on it, but it's not developed with a single-family residence according to the assessor's office. So this is what the existing zoning for this area is. And as part of the Mill District specific plan, it was to rezone this area just to RM. So this, if this was rezoned, all these parcels were rezoned just to RM, all the existing single-family residences, which is about 57 of them in this area of 79 parcels, would become non-conforming uses. And the city's zoning regulations would place restrictions on rebuilding those if there's a casualty, expanding those, doing maintenance if it exceeds a certain value. It can create barriers for getting financing to do repairs, major repairs and whatnot. And that's a lot of homes that would become legal non-conforming. They would all, if the houses were destroyed in like a major earthquake, a fire event, they would all have to get with just an RM, they'd all have to get conditional use permits to rebuild. So that was the reason for making this change from the Q zone to not just go to RM, was to not create all these legal non-conforming uses so that people could rebuild if they need to or expand. So that was the purpose of that. So this is, and this slide shows the after, if you will. All the pink would be the residential multifamily with this Q. Single-family residences will be principally permitted, as will multifamily that's 20% or more of the units are affordable to lower-income households. And that's still consistent with the Mill District specific plan. It just allows, the folks to rebuild if they need to. Yeah. So, okay. So this is Area B. This is the one. This is a housing designated housing element sites in the city's housing element, and these are under that same Q where the multifamily requires a use permit. Only single-family development is principally permitted. As part of the housing element, this area is to be rezoned to the same RMQ. And these parcels at this point, they're not, according to the assessor's description, they aren't being assessed for, like there's a single-family residence on the property. There might be like an accessory shed or something, but they're not developed with the single-family residence. They could still do that in the future, so there's not an issue where they can do a single-family residence now and they wouldn't be able to do that, so they will still be able to do that, but it also opens up opportunity to do multifamily, especially if they're incentivized, should they so choose to do affordable multifamily. But they could still do market rate. And it would implement the housing element and complete a program for the city. And so now we're in Area C. This is these parcels are also designated housing element inventory sites. They're vacant at this point in time. And this is the Q zone that just outright prohibits multifamily. It only allows single-family development. This one was adopted, I think it was 2002. And so the proposal here would be that same Q. So they could still do single-family residences like they can now, but also they could do multifamily. That could be a duplex or a threeplex or what have you, or they could consolidate them potentially if they so choose. So that's, I think, okay, we got through the maps. So as far as CEQA goes, Area A, that's the area by the Mill District specific plan. The supplemental EIR that was certified by the City Council earlier this year actually already covered these zoning amendments. So the CEQA for that change has actually already been completed. As far as the other ones, the text amendments that we were talking about and the zoning changes for B and C, it's staff recommendation that the general rule exemption of the CEQA guidelines would be appropriate because the amendments will not result in any changes to the environment since the allowed general plan residential density isn't changing. We're not changing the general plan. So that's what our recommendation is for that. And for the SRO amendments that were done last year, that same exemption was used. So The findings to approve the zoning amendments are compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. The amendments are in the public interest. The amendments are consistent with the general plan, and they are consistent with all the other parts of the zoning regulations and the other titles of the Fortuna Municipal Code. And as walked through in the staff report, it's staff's recommendation that all the findings can be made. And so our recommendation would be to open the public hearing and then consider and discuss any public comment, and then make a motion. And the resolution in your packet would be for a recommendation that the city council adopt the amendments as presented. So that's it.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions currently?
I do.
All right.
So I understand everything you're doing, and I understand why you're doing it, because at one time you don't meet your RENA numbers. So this is a fix for the RENA numbers. My question to you is, when you looked at the RENA numbers, did you look at what the state has already implemented on a housing unit on every single lot in the city of Fortuna? Because I think people they don't understand that. And another thing that you touched on was where you had single-family homes, and if we don't pass this, I guarantee you, those people that have those single-family homes cannot get a burn-down letter, and also they cannot get financing. So it is in Fortuna's best interest to do something like this.
Through the chair, so there's, the part of the rezone is, so as part of the RENA, there's the state pushes out a number, and regionally, they're through the COG, the state's number, and it's broken down, there's a total number, it's broken down by income categories, and then there's a methodology to distribute that allocation. I can't remember I think they may have done like a 60-50, jobs housing ratio, and then distribute that through all the jurisdictions. And then the city adopts the housing element to show they have sites, and there's a number of requirements that have to be met regarding to make that a site is eligible to be for the lower income RENA, which is households that make that are 80% of the area median income for Humboldt County. And there's a number of qualifications that a site has to meet, tests, if you will, for it to be eligible. And another thing you have to look at as part of identifying sites is, was it used in previous housing element cycles? If it was used in previous housing element cycles as sites B and area B and area C were, then you have to, if the zoning doesn't allow multifamily by right, where 20% is allowed by right, then you have to do a rezone program, which is what that reflects. So adopting those map changes would fulfill the city, that state law requirement for those sites, and to remain, to be compliant with state housing law. And they'll probably, I'm sure they're adding more this next cycle, which is starting. So hopefully that clarifies.
Thank you. This next question is for staff, particularly Stephen, for example. Were there any public comments received from any of the residents that received the letters, or the general public from the published notice?
We didn't receive any via email or written in, but we do have one resident in the room with us.
Okay, and we'll speak with them with the public comment shortly. Okay, so out of I think there were 67 parcels just in the mill site area, and nobody responded?
No one
With
responded.
maybe the exception of here, I don't know, but, okay,
No one responded, Chair Kine.
okay, thank you. Does anybody have any other questions right now? Otherwise, I will open up public comment. Right. Seeing none, Stephen, I'll open up public comment and see if there's anybody currently online.
There is no one
All
online.
right, thank you. Then I will open it up to the chamber. If anybody in the public would like to come up and speak, you'll have 3 minutes. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. My name is Myrna Farrar, and I live in the Area A section by the Mill District. And I'm just here to understand what the new zoning was going to be about, and whether, multifamily or single-family dwellings would be in that area. And that's what I was here for. And I spoke to Katie earlier today, and she explained quite a bit to me, so thank you.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it. If nobody else would like to speak, I will close public comment and bring it back to the dais to see if anybody else has any clarifying questions. And if not, I will ask for a motion. Oh, you still have time, so please come up. I will.
That's my sister back there, so.
It's fine. I didn't close public comment.
So how does that rezoning affect our local neighbors? In other words, if, I understand where if something burns down, then they can still rebuild it without getting, they have to have the permit and everything to rebuild it, but it would still be where it could be a single-family area. And then also, what does it mean in that mill site, the heavy industrial area? Because that's kind of almost adjacent to where we are. What does that mean, that heavy industry on the mill site map?
All right, I have your question. I'll be able to pose that to staff. Thank you.
Thank you.
So through the chair, the area shown earlier, the Area A, as proposed in the Q zone, in the event a single-family residence burned down, they would be able to rebuild. They would just need a building, get a building permit through the city as proposed. They would not need a conditional use permit because they would not be legal nonconforming. It avoids that whole creation of legal nonconforming uses as proposed. As far as, so hopefully that clarifies. As far as the Mill District site, there's that area was rezoned earlier this year as part of the adoption of the Mill District specific plan. And there's no changes to that zoning proposed as part of these proposed amendments. There's no changes to that. So there's performance standards related to uses that could be established there as part of that ordinance. I believe, I'm sure it could be, it's online on the city's website, so it's pretty detailed as I understand it.
So I just want to look over something real quick. So to answer your question, after reviewing what I saw in the draft, it basically allows for certain heavy industrial, but after speaking with the current owner, he's not looking towards those things. He's just allowed to do it. From what I recall him saying in the past he's looking for more mixed-use, light industrial, basically storage and warehouses. We don't know exactly where he's going with it, but he just has that opportunity because that's what it used to be when it was a mill. But he didn't propose anything like that during his presentation, so I don't expect that to happen. All right?
I have another question.
Oh, sure.
I'm very interested in the commercial thoroughfare or anything commercial. Are we going to be looking at, would it take a use permit to add multifamily on top of commercial?
I think under the current zoning regulations, or the proposed amendments, a supportive housing development would be principally permitted in commercial thoroughfare, but a market rate multifamily would require a use permit. I could share my script. I don't think I have quite the full text of the CT. I could share my screen, though. We could take a look if that might be helpful. Let me go back to, let's see here. Okay.
Yeah, except that it doesn't. Yeah.
Okay.
So the multifamily is conditionally permitted in commercial thoroughfare, and it is subject to a resident, or a design review and a conditional use permit. It was not included when we passed the objective design standards that allows multifamily by right in some of the other commercial zones, retail commercial and neighborhood commercial. Those would allow multifamily by right if they meet those design standards, but we still are requiring design review and a conditional use permit.
But a conditional use.
Yes, but it is allowed, as long as it meets the general plan densities, which are actually not,
That's great.
yeah.
All right, are there any other questions from the commission?
And Chair Kine, I wanted to give you some more details on the noticing you had asked about. I do have the posted North Coast Journal notice that was published on 10/2. We also did put this under our public notice section on our city website, along with the mailed notices that our contract city planner mailed out as well. So I just want to confirm that for you.
All right, thank you. I'm just a little surprised when the term supportive housing or transitional housing or community care comes up and there isn't support or, NIMBYs or something. I don't know if that's the right term, but I'm always surprised when that doesn't bring more people to the meetings or comments. So just wanted to confirm it. All right. So if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion if anybody would like to make one. Oh, there's one more question, sorry.
Through the chair, I think we had a correction to one of the recitals in the resolution. I think it's been corrected.
It's been corrected. It was only on page 2 of the resolution. It read as, let me get it exactly. It says, are conditionally permitted are consistent with the mill district. The word "with" was not there, so we added the word "with." Just a very small, minor change.
I'd like to say that I appreciate what you guys have done here because this really helps with the housing needs of our community. And I applaud you in bringing this forward, and it was done very nicely. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to pass the resolution, but I can't find the number. If someone could help me out for that.
The resolution number is, sorry. Resolution number P-2025-3137 that recommends the city council adopt zoning regulations and amendment to the zoning map. Does anybody second?
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Resolution P-2025-3137, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Fortuna recommending that the Fortuna City Council certify compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, amend Title 17 of the Fortuna Municipal Code, Chapters 17.03 and 17.06 and 17.08, and amend the zoning map consistent with the housing element and mill district specific plan. Commissioner Amon?
Approve.
Commissioner Calkins?
Approved.
Commissioner Christensen?
Approved.
Commissioner Doris?
Approved.
Commissioner Halley?
Yes.
Vice Chair Nichols?
Yes.
Chair Kine?
Yes. All right, wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. That was, I think, a couple of people already said it, but it's one of those projects that I'm excited to see in Fortuna and kind of catching up with where we should be. So thank you so much, and to all staff as well. All right, then moving on to the next item of business, Planning Commission staff communications. I'll leave it to Katie if she has anything.
Nothing very exciting. We do have, I think, a confirmed meeting for November 11th, so that is Veterans Day, so make sure you respond when we are requesting for a quorum, in case anybody's got the day off. And again, likely we'll have one meeting in the beginning of December. Things are, rolling right along. We have several subdivisions that we should be filing by the end of this year, so those will be new dedicated residential parcels, which is also exciting. More housing, more housing, more housing, and then we've got a few more coming down the pike, some small, some large, so we're going full bore for new housing in Fortuna. So all of these amendments make things run smoother, and we have other ordinance adjustments that we're looking at doing to help streamline things, and so those will be coming at you next year. So,
Okay, wonderful.
does anybody have any questions for staff?
I'm just surprised that we're having a meeting on a federal holiday. Is that normal? I mean,
I think there's a lot of federal holidays.
Well, the city of Fortuna, except for the police department, transitioned to a 34-hour work week. So city staff work 8.5-hour days, 4 days a week with Fridays off. And so in order to streamline that, or in order to lessen the impact on the public, some of those holidays were foregone.
that explains it. Okay, thank you for that. That does help. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions at all for?
I kind of was concerned, about a bunch of housing is great and that we need it so much. And then how do we keep up with the schools? Is that addressed in a different, is that a thought when all the housing is approved?
So that should be certainly considered as part of the general plan, and coordination as part of that, development of that should be engage the schools for looking at enrollment and whatnot, where there may be constraints and for facilities to develop plans for that.
Okay, that's just what occurred, a question to me. Thank you.
Developers also pay into the schools for every housing unit that they create. They pay a fee to the schools, and so the city collects those and distributes that to the schools. We collect that as part of the building permit, and so the schools receive funding to expand classrooms and
So they
teachers.
get it. They know it's getting bigger. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then there's also the bonds on the property taxes as well.
Right.
Does make a difference. Okay. And then I did want to mention, I drove down Newburgh today and saw that they had the orange fence up for the Adams Construction townhomes. I'm happy to see something's moving. I know they had a 2-year window to start as opposed to the normal 1 year. So I was excited to see that they seem to be moving along on that. So that's great,
They have
great.
submitted their first building permit for the site plans, for the site improvements, and so that's going to be approved in the next week or so, just finalizing, corrections to the plans and things like that. City staff review, so yes, I think they should be breaking some ground, hopefully before the rains start, and then getting done what they can.
They had a small Bobcat excavator out
Oh.
on top. So they had something going, plus the orange fence. So
Somebody better pick those apples.
yeah, I know. All right. Yeah, and get the cats. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Looking
I'll
your way.
make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Have a good one.